Thank you. Yes, I'm Keisha. This is my husband, David. We are husband and wife team, coaching team. Thank goodness we are, because if we weren't, we would never see each other in the evening. So luckily we're on the range together. So just real quick, I'm just curious, how many of you, can you guys hear me in the back? If I talk like this without using the microphone, can you hear me? Okay. If I get to a point where you can't hear me, tell me to speak up or I'll get the microphone. I'm just curious, how many of you are from Missouri? Ooh, wow, a lot. Okay, how many are from Michigan? I know. Texas? Indiana? Illinois? No. West of Missouri? Where are you from? Where?
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Oh, one of my favorite states.
Washington.
Oh, wow, you came a long way. Wow, okay. I was just curious where everybody's from. It seems like they're mostly from the east, but I'm glad that it's getting out west. Awesome. Very good, very good. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get started. How do you do that? Okay, I start out with something funny. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but here's a little meme. This is what I told my friends, what my mom thinks I do, what kids think I do, what society thinks I do, what I think I do, but what I actually do. Okay, this is just a little bit about us. We both started in hunting families, and it built from there. I actually got into archery whenever my brother passed away in 1999. So it all stemmed with that. His best friend came to me and wanted to know if I would get into bow hunting. That's where it all started. Turned into competition archery from there, kind of the same thing. Somebody asked me if I wanted to do 3D archery, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds boring, but I'll try it. One time was all it took. I was hooked, totally hooked. It was fun, loved it. Then got my whole family into it. And then I was a single mom at the time, and so we were about an hour from here. There's this place called Neo Show, and I was shooting, and I was supposed to be shooting with my mother. And I got there, and I got there late, and so she had gone on, and this guy comes up and walks up to me and goes, "Are you Keisha?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, your mom had to go on, and she wanted to know if you would be okay with shooting with me if you knew where this is going." And so. And so under my breath, I'm like cussing my mom out. I'm like, "Mom, I can't believe you were going to have me walk through the woods with this man I've never met." But we both soon realized that we were single. Fast forward 2 years, we're on this archery course, and he is shooting terrible. And I'm like, "David, what is wrong with you?" And he gets up and takes his shot on this tree stand. And I get up and take my shot, and when I turn around, he's like this. So that's where he proposed. He proposed on the archery range. So a few months later, that's where we met, and that's where he proposed to me. So why not get married on the archery range? So we actually got married on the archery range over the tree stand, and we actually shot our bows as part of the ceremony. So this is, I don't know if you can see them here, but that's us shooting some 3D animals as part of our ceremony. So, but that was just the beginning. This is our story now. It was just about a year after that we got, 2 years after we got married, to continue to go do the circuit. We shot ASA tournaments, local and state ASA tournaments, so shot at the local, state, national, and world levels. And then our superintendent asked me to start our school's NAS program, and then the rest is history. So we don't shoot ourselves much anymore just because of time. There's not time to do both really, but that's okay. I'm like, we'd much rather do this. Whenever you can see 24 smiles up there on the stage, it brings so much joy to our heart to be able to do that. So this is our town. Eric Edwards talked about a little bit about this. Sarcoxy, our population is 1,330. We don't even have a stoplight in our town. We are a tiny little town, not a real rich town either. We don't have a lot. So whenever we won the state championship, that was a big deal to our town and to our school. So this is on our city limit sign currently. Lions Club went through this and got that made for us, and we're getting ready to get it updated because the one that we consider our biggest win is not on there. So This is just a little bit about what we have done. And we are proud of this because we feel like being in such a small school, we have to work extra hard to make this happen. So like I tell my kids whenever they leave, if you don't learn anything else, I want you to learn that it doesn't matter what size, what socioeconomic status you come from. If you'll dream big and you plan a way, there's a way to make it happen, and the sky's the limit. So I hope that they get that from their time on the archery team, if nothing else. We had 11 state championships, 7 high school and 4 middle school, 2 national championships, which is 1 high school and 1 middle school, and 2 world championships, and then numerous individual. So I didn't know for sure where they wanted me to go with this prior to the tournament. So if it was just prior that day or prior building up to that. So I'm going all the way back. We feel like that starts long before tournament day. And this is one of our biggest things that we like to stress and that we like to do with our kids is we want to make sure that we have a personal connection to our archers. Because usually the more they know that you care about them, the more they're going to give you in return. So this is David's birthday here. This was this year, and I would say we celebrate his birthday more with our archery kids more than we do our own family. Not that we don't love our family, we do, but our kids are very, very special to us. So that was our birthday party, his birthday party. And then this is where some of it started. Up in the upper left-hand corner is, the middle one is my son back in the day. And those were his friends that we used to take to archery tournaments before we were ever into NASP. And that came back around as a great thing for us because whenever we started the program, they obviously were on our team, and we always considered them the backbone of our team. Those were the 4 solid guys that we could always depend on. And but like I said, that started long before we even started the NASP program. So we had that connection with them before. We were in charge of the Southwest Missouri Youth Shoot, so we had a lot of kids show up for that. So those are some of the kids that we took there. There's a picture of some of our archers that come back and see us later. She was already graduated, but when they're at the high school, they'll always come in and check in on us. And down here in the corner, that was this year. This was one of our kids he was a senior here. He was with us with the inception of the program, and he just shot his very last arrow at the World Championship in Myrtle Beach. And so it's a great feeling when you know your kids, you have that connection and so strong with them, you're the first person that they want to have when they come off the range. So we always try to make sure our kids know how important they are to us. And like I tell my kids, I tell them I spend more time with you than I do my own child, which is not necessarily a great thing, but I spend more time on the range. And so they know they're very important to us. My child is grown and out of the home now, but team bonding is something else that starts before tournament day. We struggle with this a little bit because of our practice range. We have a cafeteria that's about the size of this, and when we practice, we can only set up 7 targets at a time, so we can only practice 14 at a time. So we are shuffling in and out, and we have different shifts that we have to. So they're not there all at the same time as a team. So we struggle a little bit being able to keep them together and keep that team mindset. So I try to plan other activities so that they don't forget that they're a part of the team. Down here in the left-hand corner was this year when we went to Myrtle Beach. We went on that deep sea fishing trip that I had wanted to go on for so long. And I guess it ended up being a good team bonding experience because the kids got to see their 2 coaches puking over the side for about 2 hours.
Yeah, they all loved it. They loved seeing the coaches just puking over the side. That was great. Oh. And I guess it worked out because 3 of the 4 that went with us finished on the podium, so that was pretty cool.
So I'll do it again tomorrow if that's what it takes. And then we went to Stone Mountain in Georgia after that. Down here is one of our mandatory team meetings that you can see at the bottom. I said team meeting on the beach. So that was our chance to swim together, to have our pictures taken together, wear the shirts that we had made. And then those that didn't go on the fishing trip went to an escape room, so that they have to work together as a team. So there are all those things that we do, try to build before tournament day that are very important. The thing that I'm going to talk about most today is individualization. Whether you're talking about your team or individuals, we feel like it's very important to individualize. So you first need to know the goal of your team. So if you have a smaller team, and say you're in another small school and you only have 8 kids on your team, and what your main goal right now is to build it up, then you're probably going to talk to your kids and practice with your kids and coach them on tournament day very differently than you are a very experienced team that's going for a national championship. And so it all depends on where you're at in that journey. Also depends on the age of your archers. You're going to talk to elementary kids differently than you talk to your high school kids. And it depends on the level of tournament. Local, we're not going to probably be quite as serious as we are at a state or a national tournament. So all depends, all those things play a role in it. We've actually done experiments and with different goals in mind, and we've gotten different results. So I'll get into that more in just a little bit, but he's a good cop, I'm the bad cop in our coaching group. He is the nice one and jokes around with and plays, and I am a teacher through the day, so I'm the one like, okay, I have rules, and when I talk, you need to listen, and so I'll get to that in a minute. But we do actually have different results depending on who gives the team talk. Before the tournament, here are a few things that we talk about, or we have them do. We do warm-ups. Now, not all teams do. Sometimes it's kind of hard to meet those days, but we want them to come in and just take a few shots just to warm up. Maybe two rounds at 10 meters, 2 rounds at 15 meters. And some kids ride with their parents, so not every single kid is there, but we encourage them to warm up.
Yeah, we usually have them practice just 2 rounds at 10, 2 rounds at 15. What I don't want is them to get a score and then mentally have that outcome in their mind, is what's happened. We've done it before. They'll come back into me and say, I shot 295 in practice, can't wait to go to the tournament, and then they shoot a 280 or 270 something in a tournament, and that's a letdown to them. So I don't let them keep score that morning during warm-ups. It's all about form and just getting a few repetitions in.
And then we always tell them to practice like they're going to compete. So we want them to practice that morning like they're going, whenever they walk into that tournament, they need to be super focused. So we want them to be that focused and be able to get their mind back to that whenever they're in their warm-ups. Some of the reminders that we have to tell them: don't forget your bow. I don't know if you guys have this. We have kids that show up to tournaments and don't have their bow. I don't know like how many times this has happened to us, even though we tell them this is your responsibility. It is not our responsibility to get your bow. We had one a few years back, our very top kid. Here we won the state championship 14, 14, and 15. This is 2016. We had high hopes, and our very top kid, we get there to the tournament, and we're going through the bows, and we're telling everybody to get his bow, and he can't find it, and he's like, Coach, I can't find my bow. And so David asked him, he goes, well, did you get it? And he said no, and he goes, why not? And he goes, I thought somebody else would get it. I'm like, are you serious?
His senior year, yeah.
Senior year, shooting 295s and forgot his bow. So
it happens.
Yeah. And then we want them to be there about an hour before they shoot. First, we want to make sure they're not running late, but then also we have what we call bear time. So that's next. We have what we call downtime. We call bear time. So once again, this kind of goes back to the goals of your team. If you are just wanting, if you have maybe a newer team and your kids tend to get really nervous, your goal is probably going to be to relieve that tension. So you're probably going to want to laugh and tell jokes, go eat, do something just to bring them down so they're not quite as nervous. Because when you're nervous, usually you don't shoot as well. But if your goal is to win or place well, and you're at a level where you're a little bit more experienced and your kids want that, then we need to get them into a more serious mindset. So they need to clear their mind and start focusing on the 11 steps of archery. So we sit quietly as a team without talking. They can listen to music, but they are supposed to be sitting and visualizing the perfect shot. And if you talk to adults in the adult archery world, they can tell you how important visualization is. Visualization is something that's a mental management technique that is used by many, and that your body it'll help your body automatically come back to that. So if we have you put a target up and say, we want you to imagine your arrow going into that 10 ring, or stare at your aiming spot, whatever the need is that day. That that does a lot. That helps them get everything else off their mind, first of all, but it also is a positive reinforcement to them, because that's the last thing they see when they get up there to that line, is they can see their arrow going into that 10 ring. So visualization is a really important mental strategy that a lot of people don't use, but you can look up more on the internet and learn more about it. But visualization is very important. And I can tell you, I won't tell you the team that I got this from, but I can tell you that when we started this journey, we had our own goal, and one day we wanted to win the national championship. But we knew to do that, we needed to go observe the people who won. So those first years leading up to that, we would go, and it was mostly those Kentucky teams that won back then. So we would go and we would find those teams on the line, and we would go and observe them. We observed how their coach interacted with their kids. We observed how their archers shot. We observed everything about them. And one thing that one of those teams did, like I said, I'm not going to say the name of the team, but they would put a target up on the wall, and they would have their archers look and stare at it for an hour, looking at that target. Now, we don't make our kids do that for an hour, but that's important. So I can tell you that we're not the only ones. That's where we got it, was from the ones that we had to learn from. And so, but that is important. Now, making the kids sit there for an hour totally quiet is sometimes a challenge. We don't require an hour anymore, but
listen to music.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the studies that we've done is I'll take a group of kids to go eat lunch somewhere, and then we come back, and then we'll shoot a tournament, shoot for a score at a tournament, versus what she does. She's a teacher, special ed teacher, so she demands their attention, and if they're on their phone, she'll just really get onto them. And our study shows that me being the cool uncle, like, our scores plummet, they just drop, versus being a teacher and demand their attention. Our team score will improve 20 to 40 points at a tournament. It's every tournament that we've tried it in different ways. They respond to being strict on them and demanding their focus right before they shoot is the trick that we've learned to increase the overall team score.
Like I said, we've actually planned this ahead of time, and we'll say, you're going to take them and have fun with them today, and we're going to see how we do today. So we've actually done experiments on this. And so, yeah, this is over 9 years worth of experimenting. So this is was just a downtime at one of our tournaments, and we have them sit down, and they're supposed to be focusing. They're supposed to be getting everything else out of their mind. I tell them, I need 1 hour of your time. I want you to forget about who broke up with who, and I want you to forget about the test that you need to study for, or the fact that you're grounded for the next 3 weeks, whatever it is. I said, I want you to forget all of that. Now you need to get all of that out of your head, and I need you to focus on archery for the next hour. So this is what they're supposed to be doing, and they can listen, like I said, they can listen to music, but supposed to be visualizing and focusing on what they're getting ready to do. So before the tournament, right before the tournament, here are some of the talks that we do. Some of the reminders that we tell them, we want them to smooth out paper targets. So sometimes you can tell, like, if they've been stored, laid over, there's a big crease in it. If you have a kid that's shooting in the 290s, that's a big deal because there's not as much surface area. So we tell them, make sure before you ever start shooting to go straighten that out, flatten that piece of paper out. And Lou brought up a good point. Once the tournament starts, that you don't necessarily want them to touch the target. They need to make sure that it's okay with their bailment before they touch the target. But before you ever start, we tell them make sure that paper is flat. Now, if you have an elementary kid that's shooting in the 180s, he's probably not going to notice. So I wouldn't bother him with that because that's just another thing he has to think about. But if you have middle school and high schooler kids that are shooting 280 or above, that crease of paper is going to make a big difference. So that's one of the reminders that we tell them. Check your scorecard after every round. I can't tell you how many times that's happened either. We have a kid that ends up in tears because their score is 10 points lower at the end of the day than what it should have been, but they didn't check and one of the circles didn't get checked off. Always be encouraging. As far as for motivation, we always tell them to focus on their form. Everything goes back to form. You have to concentrate on your form. And if they'll do that, they shouldn't be as nervous if they're focusing on their form. Make every shot count and never give up. We have those kids that do give up. I assume that you all have those kids that just want to give up. I know we do, and trying to keep them together as a team and keeping them plowing through until the very end can sometimes be a challenge. Sometimes they come from those families that are less than ideal families, and they have a lot they bring to that tournament with them. So it's our job to coach them through that so that they don't give up for their team.
Do we all have those archers that, you know, are shooting the 290s, 295, 296 range, and then they shoot a 6, you know, or a 5 or something, or an 8, and they start getting down on themselves and start getting negative. So we don't want that. We don't encourage that. Up there in the top right-hand corner, that was at the state championship this year. Most of you guys know at tournaments, it's kind of hard to find a quiet place sometimes, especially like at our state tournament, there's vendors everywhere. So we went behind, we had the Army guys stop what they were doing. We asked if they would stop and let us go behind their trailer there. So that's where we found a nice little quiet place. We always are searching for a quiet place with no distractions so they can't see everything that's going on, where we can just have our team talk and get them focused.
It's easier to get their focus in on you whenever they're not hearing 1,000 arrows hit and hearing all the other conversations behind. During the tournament, some of the things we always have them check your equipment. Can't tell you how many times we've had a rest break right before a tournament or during a tournament. Check their arrows, make sure all fletchings are there. We're pretty strict about our arrows, so they keep their tournament arrows separate than they do practice arrows. So they should be okay when they get there, but we haven't checked those.
Make sure there's no sight marks on there and stuff, because that's the last thing you want to go to a tournament. Range official, call your kids, bow out. They have to come in, you have to fix it. That just mentally it puts a drain on your archer. So we try to correct all those things before we even leave that day after warm-ups.
Then form during the tournament, we're constantly watching for their form, because whenever they do get nervous, that's one thing that tends to lapse is their form. Whenever their kneecaps are shaking and their hands are shaking, whether they're here or here, it doesn't necessarily cross their mind. They're just trying to get their hands to stop shaking. So sometimes it's up to us to watch that for them. So some of the things that the ones that we have the most problem with probably is creeping. So we have to tell them, don't be a creeper. So for those of you that don't know what creeping is, whenever they start, you anchor here, and whenever they are not really necessarily paying attention, their hand creeps up and their elbow creeps up. And when that happens, their draw length is getting shorter, and their arrows are going to probably start dropping. So we have to tell them, don't be a creeper. Don't grip the bow. Whenever you get nervous, a lot of times what you do is start gripping, because you're nervous. So, and when you do that, there's more torque on the bow. So we have to keep reminding them, don't grip, keep your fingers relaxed. We teach them with our group, which is not really covered in this seminar or this workshop, but we tell them to put the grip of the bow here, and we teach them not to even grip at all. So these should always be totally relaxed. Barely touch these. So that's a reminder that we have to tell them, and don't drop your arm. So whenever they get nervous, a lot of times that's just one of the things, that bad habit that they just start dropping their arm. So we constantly have to watch for that and tell our kids not to drop their arms.
Yeah, when kids start getting excited in a tournament situation, get nervous, they speed up. Adults do it too, and they give them presentations and stuff. Your mindset is trying to speed up, so we'd really try to get them to slow it down.
And then the number one thing is focus. Focus for most of them. And then there's some kids that focus so much that we kind of have to get their mind off of it so that they will calm down. So it kind of depends on the needs of that child. This is one thing that I like to reinforce. The key to success is to focus our conscious mind on the things we desire, not the things we fear. And I'll tell them, if you will stand up there and you'll imagine your arrow going into the 10 ring, and you'll imagine yourself with perfect form, then you're going to have less time to be nervous over the other 99 kids that are on this line with you right now. So trying to keep their mind on what they desire instead of what's going on around them will help out tremendously. So during the tournament for individuals, keep in mind I'm a special education teacher, I feel like individualization is the key. That's something that we really focus on. And there's only 2 of us for our whole high school team, and we help with middle school as well. But and sometimes it's a challenge. I mean, we're constantly having to pay attention, but I feel like that's our place as coaches, is to figure out what that kid needs that day, and that can change from day to day. One archer can need something one day and something else another day, but that's our job to keep track of our kids and know what they need. Most of them need to be brought down. Most of them are nervous. That's just a very common thing. So we have to remind them to breathe. We'll remind them to take fake yawns. So that's something that will help if they're up there nervous. We'll say, do a fake yawn. And you go like this, and just fake it. It's amazing how that will just help bring you down. It'll help relieve some of that tension inside.
Yeah, they say it helps reduce your stress by 25% doing a fake yawn.
Find your happy place. So whether that's on the beach or in a tree stand or wherever that is, we say imagine yourself there, wherever your happy place is, or sing a song in your head. A lot of people resort back to music. If they're in the zone, leave them alone. So getting into some examples of how we try to pay attention to what our kids need. There are some that we just don't talk to, and that's what we always teach. We want them to be an independent archer and be able to go up there and shoot on their own without relying on someone else to get them through. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time. The majority of them don't do that, but we do have those that are at that level. So we had in 2017, whenever we won the national championship, we knew we had to have every single kid there. I mean, it all had to come together perfect for us because we don't have really 24 to pick from. We do have 24, but we have those 14 maybe that are on that team that are really strong shooters that can get us there. So we know every single one of those has to be met. And so we had this one kid that was shooting pretty good. I think he was, I don't know, he hadn't dropped too many points. He was in the zone though. And he was walking back and forth like this, and he would go get his arrows and walk back to his target, and then whenever he'd get back there, he would just back to the waiting line, and then he'd just stand there. Well, he was walking back from his target, and the range official asked him, like, hey man, what state are you from? And he just kind of looked up, he goes, I don't know, and just keeps walking. And so that was how focused he was. He was so in the zone, he didn't even want to be bothered with, and he wasn't rude, but he didn't even want to pull his mind off of archery long enough to figure out what state he was from, which obviously he knows very well. But that's the zone that we want them to get in, if we can get them there. And he ended up, I don't know, shooting 294 or something that day.
Just like in baseball, when the pitcher's pitching a perfect game, everybody just leaves them alone. So that's kind of the way when your kids are in that zone and they haven't dropped hardly any points, we just leave them alone. And to kind of back up a little bit, we're those coaches that we make the kids come back and tell us their scores each round. Now, a lot of people don't like that because they think it's score oriented, and I get it, but I'm using it to help coach. So I'm looking at a kid that should be 49s, 50s each round. If he shot a 46, I'm right there to help him, and we're working through that issue. That's how I know who needs help without actually making them come tell me. So I'm just keeping track of them. And if they're a practice round at 15 meters, they start off at the 48, 49, 50. It's like, all right, who down here do I need to help? So it just helps me coach the whole team while they're shooting to really work on individuals that need that help to help our team score and help them succeed at the end of the day.
It helps us be aware of what they're going through. So if one of them needs help, we know right then that they need it. If you have a kid that normally shoots 48s and 49s the whole time, and all of a sudden they're shooting 43s and 44s, there's something wrong, and we need to go figure out how to help them. Because sometimes they don't know what it is.
Because a lot of you guys know you've had 295, 296, 297 shooters, kids that's been national champions, state champions, world champions. Guys, when they shoot an 8, they're mentally they're struggling. It's a letdown to them. So to me, you have to be there to encourage them and challenge them for the next goal. I want you to come back and give me a 50 on the next round, or you got to let that go. The next arrow is the only thing that's important. You have to be able to identify those little things and help them while they're up there on the line shooting at a big tournament.
So then some of them are too excited and need to be brought back down. So this picture over here is Allie. In 2018, she was overall top female. She ended up shooting a 298 that day. But I was coaching her through that day, and she was doing extremely well. She had cleaned 10 meters, so she had a perfect score up to that. She dropped 1 point at 15. We only have 1 round to go. And she comes back, and she knew, like going into it, she had 299. And she comes back to me, and she goes, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. And I'm like, so I have to keep, okay, I'm super excited for her too, but I have to keep the countenance on my face serious, and I have to pull her down. And I said, you know what, Allie, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get yourself back to the calm, cool, collected person that I know. Because this round right here is going to either make you or break you. I said, if you don't pull yourself back down, chances are it's not going to end very well for you. Because whenever you're trying to shoot and your emotions are on a roller coaster ride, whether it's way up here or way down here, it greatly affects your shooting. I've been a competitive archer for many years, and I can tell you, even when you're super excited, you have 299, you're going to shoot that 300, you're so happy inside that your emotions are doing something different. They're way up here. So you have to pull them back down to a level where they can go and they can go up there and shoot a good round like you know they can. So it all depends on what they need. Sometimes it's bringing them up, and sometimes it's bringing them down in that case there. We had another girl that same day. Like I said, we knew we had to have every single girl, like every single person, do what they need to do to have that all come together for us in 2017. But it was because I'll have to, Mr. Chillis, and I'll have to bring you into this. We knew the scores were going to be so tough, and that's who we knew we had to beat that year was Heartland, Michigan. And we were right. We knew, the scores were super tough. We ended up winning by 3 points, which is such a close, margin that it's like it could have gone either way. But we knew we had to have every single thing come together for us, so we couldn't have any kids giving up. So this girl here that needed this encouragement, I think she was at 15 meters and dropped like 4 points at 1 round. And she was like, I give up. She goes, I don't even know why I'm doing this. I give up. And I'm like, no, you cannot give up. I said, your team needs you. What do you need, Sheila? What do you need? She goes, I need to hear some country music. And so what do? I've got friends in those places. So I started singing to her there on the range. And that's what she needed. She busted out laughing. She got rid of the bad attitude and went back and shot very well for us. And I think part of that is I gave her 15 seconds of my time. And she was important enough to me to give her my time. And she repaid me back that very next round, and she went back and shot very well. So it's about finding the need, whatever that kid needs at that moment in time. Then here at the bottom of Gage, there's some that we just let them do their thing. Gage, he shot so fast, he shoots so fast it drives me nuts. I can't slow him down though. He went 3 years and I think only one time shot less than a 290. Had like a 295 average his senior year. So when you have a kid that does that, you leave him alone. You don't go try to.
He was one of those kids that the very first practice of the year we come in, we're working on form. He's like, I want to score. All right, Gage, go ahead. 297. His senior year, first day of practice, first time picked up a bow in 3 months. Shot 297. He was just that type of kid. So whenever you're coaching them, it's like when they get so locked on like that and there's so much confidence, or it doesn't matter, they can walk into any tournament, anywhere, and shoot a 295, 297. I just kind of let them do their thing.
So we just leave them alone. But also, once again, that's our job to know, can we just leave this kid alone, or do they need to have more coaching? So, yeah, when they do that, we just let them do their thing.
So is that everything he won that year?
All those medals are his, yes.
For his senior year?
No, I think that was his throughout his career.
Okay.
Yeah, sophomore, junior, and senior year, he didn't shoot under 290.
He was on the podium almost pretty much every time. Okay. So just reiterating what, during the tournament, my biggest thing is individualizing to whatever that kid needs at that time. And I feel like as a coach, that's our job to know. And we also need to know the baggage that those kids carry. Some of them, some of those kids have, maybe they're a foster kid and they are going through a lot. They've been separated from their family. You never know what that kid is going through. We've had some that were foster kids, and we noticed that every time her mom, like her biological mom would call, her scores would plummet, and she would end up in tears. Well, that needs to be addressed before archery does, obviously. So that's what she needs that time, whether it's in a practice or a tournament. So, you know, my first priority is to help reassure her, you know what, things are going to be okay. And no matter what's going through, you know, we'll worry about this after the tournament. But her emotional needs at that time are far more important than what she's shooting that day. So that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so we're talking about other things than archery, you know, at that point while she's up there. You know, I've had kids that had target banding, just got it right there at the state tournament, and he didn't know what to do. So I told him, your goal this tournament is to hit every single color. You know, he thought that was the coolest thing ever. He's like, really? And I said, yeah, just shoot, try to hit a yellow, a red, a blue, a black, and a white. You know, that just took his focus off of all the stuff that's going on, all the stuff that he was doing wrong, and just gave him something else to think about. And he enjoyed it. He had fun with the different challenge. So, go back to her story with the biological mother that showed up. You know, I'm a numbers guy, so I'm keeping track of everybody's numbers, their averages, because a lot of you guys know when the kids get to a certain level, not everybody performs their best at a tournament. So I'm trying to encourage them. So if they're plus or minus 5 or 6 points or 10 points from their average, man, that's a great day. That's still a good day, but they don't realize that while they're up there. So I've got one girl that a few tournaments throughout the year, you know, she has a solid 280 shooter, her score would drop down to 260s, 250s. So just trying to figure that out, and come to find out, it was every time her biological mom would show up, her scores would just plummet. So, you know, we're just working with them individually on those issues. Our top girl ended up winning the world championship in 3D this year, Alyssa. You know, at the state tournament, I did not know this, but her parents offered to give her $1,000 if she won state. And I found out afterwards, because during the tournament, I'm like, why is she struggling? No, like, is everything okay? Just trying to talk to her through it. And I found out later that's what her parents did. So they put too much pressure on her, you know? So I'm always looking for things like that, because we always have those type of issues. I've had parents offer to buy a kid a 4-wheeler if they were the state champion. It's like, come on, stop. This is hard enough.
I just graduated. So I competed from 8th grade to my senior year. So as a competitor, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, we don't talk about scores at all beforehand. It's just focus on your form. That's all we're focused on.
We're trying to motivate them, but you can try a little too hard, that can backfire on you for sure. Okay, then after the tournament, just reflect on the things they did right. We'll try to leave any issues for the next practice if we want them to leave and have a positive experience. We win together, we lose together, and of course we always want to be encouraging.
Yeah, I don't ever get into what ifs, what could have, what should have happened during tournaments or afterwards. Matter of fact, I just forget it even happened. You know, the next week we're moving on to working on training for that next tournament. We don't ever talk about the negative stuff. It's always, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm working on how can I help these kids be mentally stronger at the next tournament and figuring things out. You know, how do I change practice? What do I do different practice to help get their scores up where they want to be at?
Does your team follow the same idea? You know, we're focusing on the positive, not necessarily the negative.
At the moment, no. I've had kids get so upset. They hand me their jersey and say, I don't deserve this. I mean, but you just gotta,
But
yeah, you do.
do the kids come in, you've got your negative Nelly there that's ready to give it up because they scored a little less. The other kids come in and say, look, you just did.
No, we don't even talk about it. Again, we don't have our whole team together, so during practices.
Not me, I was talking about after the tournament.
You have your other kids trying to step up and say, hey, let's look at the positive.
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's-
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of encouragement.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is our motto. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence therefore is not an act, but a habit. And so we try to reinforce all these things so that it's actually a habit, attitude and everything. And then this was this year's seniors, and then that trophy case in the back is the one that Eric was talking about. Whenever he stood up there and said, "If you want to go to Sir Coxie," we're proud of that because we are a small school and we don't win a lot. And so when this program came in, I think I've been told that it kind of helped the other sports too because it gave them encouragement that a small school can achieve great things.
You almost need another cabinet.
Yes,
Either that or you need to go higher.
Well, I started putting them in our athletic director's office, so he's getting the point, but he's getting tired of it. So.
Give him all the lower level ones.
Yeah, yes. And then if they still don't want to listen to anything that you say, then here.